Welcome to What is Going for new thought from the edge of Each week on Time's flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. According to astrologers, the magnificent eclipse we experienced in April is going to release a tsunami of awakening. While this can only be a good thing for humanity, we can't ignore the fact that awakening can also be a somewhat destabilizing and challenging process for those who have no idea who to trust or where to go for the best tools and information to guide them on their journeys of self-discovery. One person who's had the prescience to address this rapidly growing need for a safe space that offers a selection of the best tools, techniques, modalities, processes, interviews, and information for the spiritually hungry seekers is one of America's most celebrated New Thought spiritual teachers and inspirational public speakers, the Reverend Dr. Iyanla Vanzant, an internationally best-selling author and much-loved host and executive producer of the critically acclaimed award-winning series Iyanla Fix My Life on Oprah Winfrey's own network. Dr. Iyanla Vanzant joins me now to share the exciting news about her latest challenge to awaken 1 million people. Iyanla Vanzant, welcome.
Thank you. How are you, my beloved? So good to be with you always. Thank you.
You too. Awakening 1 million. You certainly don't do things by halves, do you?
No.
Aim high.
Yeah, awakening 1 million. You know, it was really divine guidance. I mean, I didn't wake up over my coffee one morning and just say, oh, let me go wake up 100, a million people. It was through prayer and meditation that I got that as my directive for this next season of life. Awaken 1 million.
You know, when these directives come, certainly, the few times they've come for me, it's a kind of, no way. You look at the picture and you think, impossible. Yeah. I don't want to undertake that. How did you feel?
Well, I was a little more severe than you. I said, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. Yeah. And then when it comes by the third time, I've learned how to be obedient, because if you're not obedient, then you get to sacrifice some other part of your life. But when I sat in and when I thought about it, I mean, what a divine opportunity to participate in the awakening, the self-acceptance, the self-awareness, the celebration, the love of 1 million people, and getting them to participate in their own process of evolution and healing and growth. It's really exciting.
It is exciting, and it's very interesting too. And I don't think actually that you're going to have much trouble with 1 million, because we're watching so many people that we never thought, would even use words like energy or spiritual are now doing so.
They are, because again, as you said in your opening, the eclipse, I've been telling my students, it's a factory reset. We have gone back to factory settings. And for many of us, that means that we have to unlearn some things, but we have the inspiration, the drive to learn some new things that will replace the things that we're letting go of, and just really awaken to a new way of being and doing and having.
And those who've been walking this path for a long time, organizing things like this particular network, they've been going for over a decade now. Yeah. Suddenly, I think that people will find these resources, that are going to help them. Yeah.
When the student is ready, the teacher appears. But when the student is really ready, the teacher disappears and the student goes on the search.
Yeah, it becomes their own teacher, which is the best thing, isn't it? So what are you offering?
Well, something for everybody. You know, when we talk about awakening 1 million, everybody is in a different place. And what are the tools? What are the resources? What are the books? Who are the teachers that we can introduce and celebrate and support at every level? So, the process of awakening 1 million, we're offering it as a year-long program, a year-long process that hopefully will take you into the next 5, 10, 20 years of your life. But wherever you are on your spiritual path, your path of healing, growth, self-discovery, we have something for you. We've got 4 levels. So there's the awaken. There's the people who they didn't know a spirit if it bit them on the foot. What is that? You know, we've got that basic level for people who are looking to do things like establish a daily spiritual practice.
Yeah.
That's basic. Or if you want to know more about spirituality, what's the first book to read? Who is a good teacher to go to? So at the awaken or the basic level, we have resources for people, practices, processes, prayers. I've even done some recordings. So if you like my voice, I can guide you through the basics, the basics. Then the next level would be awakening. So those are people who've done some work, but now they're ready to go to the next level. They want to develop the discipline. They want to trust, Sandie. Most people shy away from spirituality because they don't trust themselves and they don't know that there's a higher force, a higher mind, a presence that they can trust. That's at the awakening level. Then the awakened level, those are for the people who've done some work, who have done their work, and they really want to now dig in and make the work not something separate from the rest of their lives. You know, people can be spiritual over here and a corporate hound dog over here. You know, they want to really make it more integrated, a more integrated process. They want to be awakened. And then you've got those awoke people, the one who've done the work, and now we want to support them in teaching, training, sharing. So many people walk around with a wealth of knowledge and they don't know how to share it. So
Yeah.
there's something for everybody.
You know, I remember once talking to somebody who had gone on a 2-decade long journey, India, studying with gurus, etc. And at the end of it, he said, yes, he felt he had found enlightenment, but then he knew that you couldn't go and sit in a cave on his
Yes.
own and just, base, based in
Be
that. He
enlightened.
had to go out into the world and do something with it. And I think that's a directive that we all
Yes.
have.
Yes.
When you know it, you've got to share it.
And sometimes the directive or the sharing it isn't just about, write a book, open a retreat center. Sometimes it's just in how you live your life every day and
Mm.
how you approach people every day, how you speak to people, how you deal with people so that you are a demonstration and they see you and they just want some of what you have. So maybe you can take them to lunch. Maybe you start a study group. Maybe you go into an elder home or hospitals. It doesn't have to be something big that gets you 1 million followers on social media. It's just how do I integrate, practice, and demonstrate what I know and who I am in a way that serves and supports other people.
Yeah, yeah. Are you collaborating with other spiritual teachers?
Everybody, anybody, everybody, yes. Because I don't have it all, and I'm not for everybody. But there are other teachers who and to know about everything so that we can bring things together. There are spiritual people in politics, there's spiritual people in economics, there's spiritual people in religion, there's spiritual people in education, health. I'm looking at my relationship with God's source creator, something greater than me, my relationship with myself, my relationship with others, and my relationship with the world. How do I awaken and celebrate and serve and grow and heal in all 4 of those areas? God, self, others, the world. And there are teachers who are masterful in all of these areas. Some people will vibrate toward books. Others will vibrate toward music. Others will vibrate toward, physical activity, be it yoga or exercise. Some are looking for nutrition. When you wake up, when you're loving yourself in a different way, you want to eat a certain way, and you want to know what that is. So yeah, I'm really excited about other teachers, other perspectives. That's exciting.
How do you see your role in this? I mean, will you be presenting? Will you be conducting interviews? Will you just be managing?
I'm the midwife.
You're the midwife.
I'm the midwife. I come, I coach, I remind you to breathe. I'm there, but I'm not there to have the baby. I'm there to support the birth of the baby. And the baby is the process. The baby is the program. So I'll be there, but I'm there to
This is an enormous undertaking. I mean, having built websites and created things myself online, I know exactly how much work is involved and how big it's got to be. How does that not daunt you at all?
I am blessed with an incredible team. I have an incredible team. And if I have the vision, they find the way to execute it. And that's those divine relationships. And how do you create them? So many of us in the world today who are waking up, there are things that we want to do, and we think we have to do it all. We think we have to do it all. Like I said, I'm the midwife. I'm not having the baby. I don't have to have a pain. I don't have to suck ice chips. I'm there to coach you through it. So I have an incredible team. I've got beautiful IT people. I have a team of people, and all they do is pray. That's all they do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it gets done little by little. The pieces come together. But as the midwife, I've got to know we're in labor, we're birthing, and the goal is to get the baby here alive.
So if I was somebody who had just woken up, and we'll discuss that word later, but and I came to your website, I could browse around it, have a look at everything. There's a level that's completely free, and then if I
Yeah.
want to engage, then we start looking at cherry picking the things that interest me. So
Well,
it's
you
like
take
creating pathways.
Yes. You take, for example, one of the things everybody can do if they don't do anything else is they can come to the website, and you're going to be asked to pick a principle. You pick a letter, and it's going to give you a universal principle and a definition. Maybe all you want to do is learn how to incorporate that principle into your life, whether it's trust or truth or forgiveness or non-judgment or acceptance or celebration or victory, whatever it is. Everybody can get that. Then at the base, the beauty of waking up is self-awareness. Where are you in your personal growth, development, healing, learning? Where are you? We're not going to tell you that, but you'll be able to look at the various levels and see, okay, this is where I am. I'm interested in that. Maybe you want to do, whether you're at level 2, 3, whether you're awake, awakening, or awakened, maybe you want to do the 12 steps. We've taken the 12 steps that are of Alcoholics Anonymous fame, and we've broken that, transcribed them into everyday principles for everyday living. Are you on step 1, step 4, step 9, step 10? And how do you apply that? Maybe you want to work 1 step a week or 1 step a month. 12 steps will get you through a year. So it all depends on where you are and how you want to approach your living. But everything will be laid out, is laid out. You can go there and see, and you get to choose, because choice is power. I don't want to tell you, choose it.
Yeah. And so then if they graduate through 1 year, let's say they've done, their 12 steps in 1 year, they then have the opportunity to go on to other levels and go deeper and deeper.
Well, you can do any level you want at any time. There are workshops, there are classes, some are live, some are pre-recorded that you can do self-study over the course of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. There's one program called From the Ground Up. for people who know that their foundation, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, is not solid. That's a 6-week program, self-directed. You go in, that's at the awakening level. You go in and you will spend a week building your physical foundation, your money, your relationships, your home, your career. You spend a week doing your mental foundation. What are your thoughts? How are you thinking? What do you need to do to reprogram your mind? Your emotional foundation. What are some things that you're still holding that need to be cleansed and healed? What is your spiritual foundation? That's a self-directed study. You can do that at any level because all levels are open to everyone. Some programs and processes have a price, others don't. You get to choose.
The words awake, awakening, awakened,
Yeah,
awoken. I mean, these words have become so loaded
yeah,
recently, and so tarnished.
yeah.
And it's so sad. As a journalist, words are important to me, and when I watch words being bastardized and turned into something awful when they're not, how have you had any kickback from that?
Not really, because I have a clear intention and we have a definition of our intention for each of those words and the definition of that word. And Sandie, one of the things that we have to heal ourselves of is allowing other people to tell us what to think. There's a very powerful statement that those who control the words and images control the minds of the people. And people who control the words, who control the images, are telling us that awoke is bad, that woke is bad, that awakening and the woke community. And we don't have to embrace that. We can restructure it, which we have done. So I didn't have to invent a word. I'm not going to line up with the culture of this society. This is what it is. If you can line up with it, fine. And if you can't, that's fine too.
You have something that you call creating a living vision. Tell me what that is about.
Yeah. Level for people. Andy?
We've got a little glitch going on.
What
Is it my end, Chris? I don't know if it's my end or your end, but there's a little glitch that is.
I don't know either.
Am I
Okay.
freezing at your end?
Okay. Yeah, you froze. I was
I
just talking
froze.
away. Did I freeze? Yeah.
You froze at my end, yeah. Anyway, just keep talking and let's see what happens. So I
Okay.
missed what you said. So if you could just start that again about creating the living vision.
Okay. One of the most powerful tools of self-realization that we have is our vision. Just think about it. You walk around in life and what you see really determines what you do and what you have. I mean, for me as a woman, it's my vision when I go shopping. That tells me what I see and what I get and what I do. But from a personal growth, a spiritual perspective, vision is so important. And I always tell my students, the vision will pull you forward. If you have a vision, if you can see it, it will pull you forward. You will know what to do. So at the awoke level, we do something called a living vision. Now, this means you've got a solid spiritual foundation. It means that you've got a solid spiritual practice. And what you want to do is bring your vision to life. Now, that's a program that I do. And I walk people through step by step by step how to take that idea, how to take that vision and turn it into a live, living entity, calling in the resources, not doing, but calling in the resources and creating the divine relationships and making that vision a part of who you are and making who you are a part of that vision. It is a powerful process. It's a 4-month process. And you're going to work Because if you have a vision, you've got to birth it. So I teach other people how to midwife their vision into reality.
We've spoken before about some of your other books, which have shared some of the grueling circumstances of your early life. At what point did you understand that you had the power to change your life?
Last Tuesday. No. Because every time I think my power's pumping, something else comes up, I do. I tell you, Sandie, it really is a function of my spiritual practice and really just being in touch with the highest, grandest part of me. As a human being, I am crazy as hell.
But at what point did you, kind of understand the whole spirituality thing?
I don't know if there was a point
Moment?
as much as there was follow the dots. You do it and it works. You do it and it gets better. You do it and you have more to do. You step into it and it unfolds. So I don't know if there was one particular point, or a combination, a collection of dots and points and experiences. When you hear something and you are obedient to what you hear and it blesses somebody else, it manifests in your life. I mean, it's been I've had my school, Inner Visions Institute, now for 36 years. And I remember getting that instruction. You're going to start a school and you're going to teach people what you've learned. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And it took me 3 years to write the curriculum. And the people who showed up to sit with me, and the people who brought their own skills, and how we developed the faculty. And when we opened the school the first year, and 107 people showed up to do a 2-year in-person program, I was like, oh my God, this is working. So it's really having the vision, being able to see it, and then being obedient to the guidance I've felt. And some things didn't work out. But I was looking for the lesson, as opposed to being afraid or frightened because this didn't turn. Okay, well, what happened here? What did you do? Oh, you didn't do that. Remember, you didn't do, or you did this. Who told you to do that? Why'd you do that? So it's really about being self-aware again, accepting your missteps, accepting whatever shows up without judging it as bad or wrong. I have to say that part of my foundation, and the solid part of my foundation, has been A Course in Miracles. Mastering those lessons has saved my life many, many days.
When did you come across that?
1978. 1978. I saw a little ad in a community paper, and I was in crisis. My life was, oh my goodness, I can't even tell you. It was the bottom of the trash can. And this little ad in the community paper, one of the little spiritual papers you get in the bookstore, it said, "Are you ready for a miracle?" Oh, hell yeah. That's the only thing that's going to save me, as is a miracle, So I went to the meeting. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I got all dressed up, and I went to the little meeting at the address and I walked in the room, and it must have been about maybe 8 or 9 middle-aged white people. And they looked at me and I looked at them, and hey, how you doing? At that point, I didn't care who was in the room. I needed a miracle. And it was a study group for the Course in Miracles, led by a beautiful, beautiful man. His name was Dan. And I went to that group, oh my God, almost 2 years, and studied A Course in Miracles. Turned my life around. 1978.
Well, I think that you're the right person to be talking to people, teaching, how to envision your life, create, the living vision that you want, because so many people haven't lived it, but
Yes.
you've really lived it.
Yes. Well, they have lived it Sandie, because we each get what we need in order to learn, in order to heal, and how in order to grow. But because they weren't awoke or awakened, they weren't paying attention. That's it. Everybody has received exactly what they need. When we were talking the other day, I said to you, I lost both of my daughters. The first one 20 years ago. And I was a hot mess, ready to take my life, ready to throw in everything. She was my dearest, dearest friend. And I just didn't know how I was going to breathe without her. So 20 years later, when I lost my second daughter, before I went into the grief and the horror, the devastation of that, I remembered what I did the first time. I remembered what worked. I remember what didn't work. I remember it didn't work for me to deny what I was feeling. It didn't work for me to try to be strong for everybody else. It didn't work for me to try to make all the arrangements, and it didn't work. That didn't work. I had to look at what worked and what didn't work. So when I lost my second daughter, I let people help me. I sat drooling on the side of the bed and let them do everything. I didn't have to do it because it was my daughter. So I say that because I want people to understand, if you've had an illness, if you've been divorced, if you failed at a business, if you've lost all your money, those are not things that happen to you. They're things that happen for you. And you know how to get through it. And what you learn going through that, how can you apply it to what you're going through now? That's self-awareness. We want to wake up to that. We want to wake up to the blessing in every single unpreferred experience. I don't call them challenges and issues anymore. They're unpreferred. I prefer not to be divorced, but since I am.
That's a good way of looking at it. That really is a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. And it's an interesting thing because, grief is one of those things that can overtake people very easily. And, it doesn't matter how many times you've experienced it each time, but you're offering people a new way to look at it.
Well, it's understanding the distinction between grief and mourning. Grief is a natural, organic process that your soul, your psyche will move through. Where we get stuck, Sandie, is in the mourning. Let me make the distinction. Grief is a natural psychological, emotional, spiritual response to loss. It could be the loss of a pet, a job, a person, a home, an object that you're going to grieve that. Mourning is a reaction to a loss that is grounded in remorse or regret. Mourning is, I should have done this. Why didn't I do that? How come I didn't know? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Only if that's mourning. You're going to get stuck in mourning. But if you grieve, if you stay in touch with your feelings, admit your anger, admit your helplessness, your hopelessness, admit that and allow it to unfold. As a mom who lost a child, one of the things that I had to learn was that it was okay for me to be okay, even though she was gone. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was okay for me to be okay. I thought I had to mourn forever. Mourn, not regret. I mean, not grieve, but mourn. And I had to learn the first day when I was feeling happy, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was a bad mother. Yeah. I should be weeping and crying. Well, no, not 5 years later. You can feel okay. So I think many people react to the loss with regret or remorse and don't process through the anger, the helplessness, the hopelessness. They get stuck in mourning, not grieving.
That's a really important distinction. It's a really valuable piece of information, and you should write a book about that.
You want me to write a book about everything, Sandie?
Yeah. Well, you've got a lot of wisdom, but we're going to take a short break now. You're listening to What Is Going On, and my guest today is our best-selling author, internationally best-selling author, and much-loved host and executive producer of the critically acclaimed, award-winning series Iyanla Fix My Life, Dr. Iyanla Vanzant. We'll be back with more in a few moments.
Om Times TV.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of Times flagship radio show What Is Going On, and as an author, editor and 13 times book judge who's read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors, I'm constantly asked what's really worth reading and what's not. So I created the No BS Spiritual Book Club to help you save time and money by picking the brains of discerning names who have walked this path before you. There's no catch, no fees and no BS. Just an ever-growing library of 10 best spiritual book lists from some of your favourite authors and teachers, plus free book excerpts, audios and video interviews with people like Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., David G., Lee Harris, Mark Nepo and more. From well-known classics to hidden gems you've never heard of, it's the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to enlighten your journey of self-discovery. So why not join the club? Get inspired and save money at the nobsspiritualbookclub.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Everything that we do, we can do in a contemplative manner. Through the art of contemplation, you can use the gene keys in a really powerful way. Gene Keys is basically the code book of life. In the Gene Keys, the book is made up of these 3 levels: shadows, gifts, and cities. And the journey is through those 3 levels, kind of unpicking of the shadow states, the releasing of the gifts, and then the embodying of this higher consciousness called the city. And the cities are very exalted words. And it's not like we kind of suddenly are all these exalted Christ-like beings, but we have flashes and illuminations along the journey. And the more we get stuck into the journey, the more illumination comes to us, because the more we're releasing the light from in these codes inside our DNA. So all those revelations are inside us. So the contemplative way is the inner way.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. Dr. Iyanla Vanzant, tell me about IVTV.
Oh, IVTV. You know, having worked in television, I just recognize how sometimes when people who are not there every day, but have a say in what goes on every day, can limit you, can limit your expression. And trust me, I was at the Oprah Winfrey Network. I really had free reign to do whatever came across my heart. But there were also the advertisers. So if they didn't like a particular topic, or if they didn't like the way it was being presented, the network had to acquiesce to that. So I decided if I'm going back on television, back in front of a camera, I want it to be no holds barred. So I found a beautiful streaming network founded by Mark Cuban, who's one of the hosts on Shark Tank. And he started a streaming platform and he invited me to be a part of that platform, the Fireside platform. So I started IVTV, Iyanla Vanzant TV, Intervisions TV, whatever your IV is, your intravenous vitamins. And this is where I talk to authors and I talk to other teachers, and we provide 7 days of programming. We're building it up. So we have other hosts. We start every day with Every Day I Pray, where we guide people through a 12, 15-minute affirmative prayer process just to start the day. And then in the evenings, we have a sound bath one day. We have a shaman who does the awakening heart. We have a medium who gives people guidance right on IVTV. So it's really an opportunity to do no holds barred broadcasting with no advertisers to tell us what we can do, and we can't get sued, and we can do whatever feels right in the moment. And we don't have to do it forever. And we don't do it for ratings. We do it for service.
For service, yeah. And you also have a book club. And you recently had a course that got my attention because it was a project that was launched for men. And I think men are very underserved in our community. And, you know, that book, The Invisible Ache, Black Men Identifying Their Pain and Reclaiming Their Power. I mean, brilliant title, brilliant book, brilliant topic. But it's not just Black men, it's all men, isn't it? All men.
Well, you know, the author, Courtney B. Vance, who's an acclaimed actor here in the U.S. and husband to our beloved Angela Bassett. He wrote the book because at the height of his career, he was in an award-winning play on Broadway, and he was suffering from chronic, almost debilitating depression, where he would sit for hours on the edge of the bed, and they'd prop him up and pump him out in the world, and he'd go do his performance, and then he'd go back to the edge of the bed. And he wrote this book, and it was an invisible ache, something he couldn't name, couldn't see, couldn't touch, but it was always there. He always felt it. And so many men have that invisible ache of all races. This book is about a Black man and dedicated to Black men. But as we do the book club, we know that it's the same thing because men aren't taught. They just aren't taught how to, first of all, have a feeling. Second of all, identify the feeling and then talk about the feeling. And society, the way men or boys are thrown out in the world, they're expected to be silent and to be strong and to be whatever. And at the root of Courtney's issue was his father's suicide. And his father committed suicide because he went through his whole life, married, children, everything, believing that his mother didn't want him. His mother didn't want him. And it became overwhelming, and he reacted and took his own life. Many, many years later, Courtney had a godson that he raised, and at 23 years old, that godson took his own life. And that triggered Courtney into a depression and helped him to identify his own ache, which sent him to therapy, which sent him to a radical approach to self-care for men. Women will do self-care. We'll take a bath, we'll go to the spa, we'll do our nails, our hair, you know. Are men doing that? Do they know they have time? But more important, Sandie, do they know they have permission?
There's the word. Yeah.
Nobody is going to think them wrong or bad or the kryptonite for men inadequate if they have a feeling, if they have a day off, if they are confused, if they have a fear, if they have a whatever. So the Invisible Ache it was a virtual book club for men. Men came together every week for 5 consecutive weeks and walk through the invisible ache. I facilitated, but every week I had a different man with me. I had a coach, I had a minister, I had an educator, I had a psychologist, and who was the other person? I can't remember the other person, but every week. And basically what I did the prayer work, I did the breath work, and then as a woman, I sat there with my mouth shut and just let them have at it. And there were men who spoke about things they said they had never spoken about. From their childhood, men who didn't know that it was okay to acknowledge that they had been sexually abused, physically abused, men who felt lonely, men who felt sad, men who felt confused, but they got up every day and they went to work, and they did. Men who knew how to do, but didn't know how to be. So I think we'll do it again at some point, because that is an incredible book that opened men up to know it is okay. You have permission not to know, to be afraid, to be confused. And there are hundreds of thousands of other men on that same step with you.
Yeah, I think, and this is a topic that I've delved into in the past, because, I once wrote a book which was about understanding the opposite sex, for men and for women. And the research that I did on men showed exactly this. And I think since we stopped our natural way of living and rites of passage, the rites of passage, I think, was so important for men. We still have them. Women still have them.
Yeah, we do.
But the men don't.
Yeah,
and that's criminal, because their identity, it takes them. Well, they end up thinking, as you said, that they've got to be strong. They've got to be, quiet. They can't admit to anything. And we're taking away so much from them. We're completely emasculating them in a way. So they can't, have the masculine power that we want to see.
And they can't be our leaders. And that's what we so sorely need right now. That masculine leadership, that's a unique balance of head and heart, of intellect and emotion, of physicality and spirituality, a new way of men to be, so that there's a new way that they do, so that we can all have differently. It's not to grab the woman by her hair and drag her up anymore, but nobody's taught them the new way. And it's incumbent upon us as mothers, as wives, as daughters, as sisters, as friends, to give our men permission and to support them in taking care of themselves in a new way and learning a new way of being. And that means that we have to lay down some of our expectations, because I say this to men all the time and they laugh at me. I say 99% of the time, when she's angry and fussing at you, it's not that she's mad, she's afraid.
Yes.
She's afraid either that you're not going to be there or you can't be there. And then she's not going to know what to do. So don't think that she's angry. Know that she's afraid. And you can help navigate that fear in the way you be with her, in the way you speak with her. So I think it's so important right now. As a woman, I don't want to dismiss men, demean men, dishonor men, disrespect men. And I don't want to keep running ahead of them. I think as women, we're running ahead and the poor men are trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And we've got to shift that. We've got to shift that. So in addition to awakening 1 million in this year, my directive is to turn my attention toward men. And I'm grateful. They trust me, because I don't want anything from you. I don't want anything from you. And wherever you are, I'm going to meet you there. And I'm not going to dishonor your dignity. I'm not going to do that. And I've demonstrated that. So men really do trust me. Black men, white men, all kind of men. And women trust me with their husbands.
Yeah, it's interesting because there have been several, kind of surges of attempts to create these platforms that have never really stuck. There's been a bit of interest. Iron John back in the 80s, John Bly, various different men's groups that were started, but they've never quite got the traction that they needed. And I think now with the new energy, I think that there's an opportunity. Yeah.
Well, when men come together, they come together usually to compete. And they've got to prove their strength, and they've got to prove their
Yes.
whatever. And they, as Iyanla, the great mother, the teacher, they're coming to me to learn. So I'm not going to beat you up for what you don't know and can't do. I'm going to support you, teach you, facilitate you, and then you do whatever you do with it. So I think that them coming, and as a woman, I'm coming with heart. It's my heart that is attracting them, not my desire for anything. I don't want anything. I guess that's because I'm a great grandmother now. So I
You
have
got enough on your plate.
right. I'm coming from a whole nother perspective. And again, I don't take it lightly, and I don't deny. Men trust me. They trust me. And that is an honor, and it's a privilege. And I'm very mindful never ever to abuse that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to let you get away with crazy, but I'm not going to abuse you when you show up. And women send me their husbands and their sons. Here, take him.
So what kind of responses did you get from the men that came, whether they were pushed by their wives to attend or whether they chose to do so themselves? I mean,
Slow. It was very slow. But when the ones who came, they went and got the other ones.
yeah.
They went and got the other one. See, as women, we will just show up. Oh, that sounds good. Let me do that. Put the credit card down or do whatever you do it. But men, they're like, The thing that I love about men is once they're in, they're in.
Yes.
Once they're in, they're in. I think about myself. I've joined the gym 56 times. Never showed up. Whenever they having a special, I join the gym, but I don't go. But a guy will join the gym and he'll go. So what happened was the ones who showed up, it was very slow, very small, but every week it grew. Because once they got there and realized, A, they were safe, B, they were respected, they weren't challenged, they weren't judged, and they could hear each other. The next week there would be more and more and more. So it was really, really a beauty. And they didn't want to end. So I said, well, y'all don't have to end, but I won't be here every week. Go over to Google and do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the hardest, the biggest hurdle is for them to give themselves permission and to admit this may be good for me.
Yeah. And you know how they show up.
Yeah. Prove it to me.
Right.
Yeah. So we've talked about Awaken 1 million, and we've talked about this really, really important critical subject. What is your take on where society is going from here? Because, everybody I speak to is aware that the old system's crumbling and that we need a new way. And yet the people in power are continuing absolutely oblivious on the same track.
Yeah. Well, here's what I know. This doesn't have to be true for anybody else. What we're seeing in the world, among our leaders in government and politics and just in the world, what we're seeing in the world is a function of who we are. They're showing us who we are. They're showing us our innermost thoughts and feelings. They're showing us our secret behaviors. They're showing us. Because at all times, in all situations, under all circumstances, there's nobody in the room but me. Everything I see is an aspect of me. And how I deal with it, how I address it, how I interact with it determines my level of awakening and my outcome. So people, how unfortunately, are looking out in the world and getting caught up in what the people are doing, as opposed to saying, oh my God, how do I do that? How do I lie? How do I bully? How do I not tell the whole truth? How do I make everything about me? How do I deny the truth? How do I, that's what people are doing. And they're getting caught up in those personalities. But we're getting to a critical point. That solar eclipse, that, I don't want to get into astrology, but what's happening in the world, what's being awakened in our genes, simply by virtue of the environmental shifts. You're going to get clear. That is you, boo. It is you. Everything you see is you. And you can tell it's you if it upsets you, if it angers you, if it triggers you. Me, like I told you the other day, I'm under the bed with my popcorn looking. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. And I also say, okay, I'm so glad I healed that. I'm so glad I'm not there. I'm so glad I'm better. And then when I see things that trigger up something, I'm like, okay, let me go in and clean that up so that when I see it out here, I don't have to react to it. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to deny it. I just have to call it what it is. That is a lie. That is unkind, unloving. Recently here in the US, we lost O.J. Simpson died. And, he was at once a beloved football player and then was accused of a tragic crime. And when the day he died, public people with a huge platform said things like good riddance. A newspaper printed on the cover of the newspaper his picture, real killer dead. I was like, oh my God, we have really sunk into a pit of depravity. Never mind his children, his grandchildren. But this was the big thing for me. When I leave this body, I don't know where I'm going. But I'm sure when I get there, nobody's going to ask me, what did you think about O.J. Simpson? You do it? You think he did? And let me worry about myself. And everything that I do, let me be kind and loving. What if you passed on and somebody with you were to put on social media good riddance for your children, your mother, your grandchildren to see? That's not about OJ, Sandie.
No.
That's about that person's heart.
Yeah.
And that poison in their heart is going to infect every single area of their life.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm under the bed with my popcorn watching. Oh, look at that.
It will be interesting to, come back in 3 or 4 years and have a look at how things have changed.
Yeah, because
they are changing. They have to change.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yes, good.
Yeah. So tell our viewers where they can find IVTV, where they can find Awaken 1 Million.
Well, let's do Awakening 1 Million because I'm so excited about that. Iyanla.com. Iyanla. You may not be able to say it, but you can spell it. Iyanla. Iyanla.com. You'll find everything about Awakening 1 Million. And for IVTV, Fireside. One word, Fireside. You go there and you'll see me, you'll see Steve Harvey, you'll see Dr. Phil, you'll see just an incredible array of teachers who are sharing on this platform.
So what else are you doing?
Retiring.
Oh, yeah? I don't see any sign of that.
No, and I have the divine blessing of raising my 6-year-old great-grandson. It's cultural. It's a blessing. He's 6. And so he keeps me on my toes. That's why at 70, I can still wear a ponytail because I'm raising a 6-year-old.
And you have the opportunity. It is a male who doesn't have to grow up in the same way that others have.
Not in the least. And I'm very clear that's why he's with me. I mean, because this little boy at 6 has been through a lot. And he ended up on my doorstep by accident. Okay. By accident. My daughter, his grandmother had COVID, and I went to get him so that she could recover. And when I got him, I was like, oh my God, he's an empath. He is brilliant. He's probably about 8,000 years old in that little body, and he doesn't know how to manage that, and neither do his parents. So, through subversive means and methods, he's ended up in my home, and now he plays Tibetan singing bowls, and he knows how to meditate, and he knows how to breathe, and he knows the 23rd Psalm, and he knows 14 lessons out of A Course in Miracles. Okay?
Well, I would say you're doing a really good job there.
Yeah.
Iyanla Vanzant, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to your incredible audience, and thank you for what you bring to them. So I'm looking forward to seeing you and them in the future as we awaken.
Absolutely. I'll second that. So Awakening 1 Million, that's the name of the new website, portal, hub, magic cave, whatever you want to call it, but it is definitely worth checking out. For more information about Iyanla's books, podcasts, audios, events, visit her website, iyanla.com. That's it for this week. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to being back with you at the same time next week. Till then, it's goodbye from me, and thank you, Iyanla.
Thank you.